Hi everyone and welcome to today's Maths Monday. This week we're doing something a little bit different and we're going to be talking about strategies for studying for your maths exam rather than focusing on how to solve one specific type of maths problem. The advice that we're going to talk about today will be relevant for all the different types of problems you may be doing in the future because it relates to the time that you're coming up to your assessment on those topics and how to best prepare to demonstrate your knowledge when you get into those exams. So let's get into it. Often you're given a revision sheet before an exam, and that might be a whole lot of activities that are based on the different topics that you've covered and the different topics that are going to be on the exam. If you're not given a revision sheet, you need to create your own. And if you're not given a sheet of activities, you've probably been given a list of topics at the very least, perhaps a list of topics and a link to your school's online maths portal or your textbook and some pages that you can look at or something like that. It's very unlikely that you've just been told that you've got an exam and you don't know what's going to be on it. So either you've been given a revision sheet or you need to make your own based on the activities that have been set out on the revision checklist. And then now we're going to talk about how you tackle that revision sheet or those revision activities. I'm going to assume, like most students, that you are facing some time pressure. Generally, we have exams and assessments, assignments and things due in many subjects around the same time. And that means that we need to be very strategic about how we spend our study time. So what I would suggest for the maths revision is that rather than focusing on the checklist and just starting at the top and working your way down, or starting at the beginning of the revision sheet and working your way through, you take an approach which makes sure that you don't focus all your attention on one thing at the risk of running out of time to focus on the things at the bottom of the list. So I suggest that you take the first question in each topic first. If you come to a topic and the first question is easy, that's a really good sign that you still remember how to solve problems in that topic. However, we do know that we'll often get an easy question in a topic and then a slightly more challenging one and then a very challenging question. And those questions are often the things which are used to separate the A's from the B's and the C's. Okay, so if you want to give yourself the best chance to get your highest mark possible, then once you've done the first question, I recommend going straight to the last question. In most cases, you're going to have done the least challenging and then the most challenging in each topic. If the first question is tricky, that is a little flag to you, a little sign that you need to go back and revise the learning materials on that topic before you try any more revision materials on that topic. Otherwise, you might plow on through the revision questions without really understanding how to get any of the answers, and then you're not revising. You're really just putting yourself through the pain of the revision and reinforcing the message to yourself that you can't do that type of question. So if the first question in a topic is hard for you, go and revise the learning materials and then come back and look at the second question as if it's now the first question. And if it's easy, then you can go on and do the most difficult question. If you have time, I would recommend at the end of this process, going back to any topics where you had to go and revise the learning materials and trying, if you have time, trying to do every revision question on that topic to help reinforce that learning because it obviously didn't stick the first time. And that might be because you were away or something when it was taught, but it could also be because it's just a little bit of a more complex concept for you to grasp. And so if I were you, I would take advantage of as much revision on those topics as possible. But again, not at the expense of other topics that might be on the revision checklist. Don't focus all your time on one topic that you find challenging and then run out of time to look at all the other topics, okay? So be strategic. First question, if it's easy. Last question. If the last question's hard, go and look at the revision materials and come back and have a go at a question from the middle. If the first question's hard, go and look at the revision materials, come back, try the second question. If that's okay now, do the last question and then move on and then come back to that topic at the end. Okay. And I have put a note on the bottom of that slide there. Do all the questions if you have time. Obviously, that's the ideal situation because then you've probably revised all the different possible layouts and question types that you're going to find on the exam. So if you can do them all, of course, go back and fill in those blanks. One other thing about doing the questions in that sort of jumping around style is that it helps you to feel responsive and agile in jumping from one topic in your mind to another topic and recognizing what each question is asking you to do. Sometimes when we learn a topic, we get into our mind the methods to solve those sorts of questions, and we do heaps of the same type of question, and we get really good at them. But then when we get to the revision sheet, we think, oh, I can't even remember how to solve that type of question. Because when we did heaps of them and we were good at them, they were all the same sort of thing, and we knew what the question was asking us to do. So by jumping around, you're kind of imitating real exam conditions a little bit more because you're jumping from one topic and then you're going to a different topic and working out again what that question's asking you to do. So you're having to switch from that type of problem solving to this type of problem solving, or those that formula or those approaches to this formula or this strategy, which is completely different. And so it helps you to get familiar with that jumping around sort of approach. Okay, that was kind of my main advice, but I also recommend this approach for study in all kinds of subjects, and this is an approach you can use right from the beginning of the term. It's best not to leave this approach until the exam revision sheet is given out, okay? This is something that you could build in to your regular study habits, and that is to create your own tests. The picture that's on the screen there is a little bit of a swirl, but what I was really going for is a spiral. And what I suggest is that when you learn something new, you focus a lot of your revision attention in your homework that week when you learn it on that topic. But as you then learn new topics, you move the new content up the spiral a little bit. You move the old content, last week's content, up the spiral. I've got to be clear on this. The new content is the biggest part of the spiral, but you don't forget what you did last week. You just do a bit less of that up the spiral. And then as you learn more, you'll end up having several topics in your spiral. The ones that are new, you focus on the most, but you make sure you build in some of last week's practice and some of the week before, and so on and so on. And in that way, you're building a spiral of revision. So when you come to the end of the term and you're preparing for your exam, you have been reinforcing those concepts from early in the term all the way through. And you haven't got to sort of rack your brain to try and think about what it was that you learned and how you did those questions maybe 5, 6, 10 weeks ago, okay? Now, using this approach, I recommend that each week you make yourself a little pop quiz type test. 10 questions max, 10 questions on the topics that you've been learning. Some of them from this week, maybe 5 from this week, 3 from last week, 2 from the week before, or something like that. You make 2 of those tests. That shouldn't take too long. And then you do one then to make sure you're keeping up with what you're learning. And you put the other one aside. And when you get to the end of the term, you've created your own little tests that you can take to revise all the material from the term as well. And it's going to be extra revision above and beyond what you might be getting from the teacher. So it puts you in a really good position to feel very confident about your preparation. Okay, don't forget that there are usually extra study opportunities available before exams. Your teacher may put on some tutorial groups at lunchtime or after school. Make sure you take advantage of those if you can. You can also go to the library by yourself or with friends if you're finding yourself short of time to do your study and homework at home. Then take the opportunity when you have your lunch break to go and get a little bit of that stress off your plate by using that time at the library. You can also study at home with other people or try and carve out some time to have a parent or somebody else hold you accountable for keeping your study schedule that you've set for yourself. And then finally, don't forget to make the most of your class time. When you are preparing, I recommend mimicking test conditions if you can. Now, sometimes you might be at the age or your school might give you the opportunity to have extended time off before exam block. And usually that's called something like SWAT vac or study week. And in that time, you will often have whole days free and then other days where you have an exam. In those whole free days, you can look at the time that you have available and look at the time that your exam is going to be in a couple of days. Say it's a 10 o'clock in the morning exam. Then you can actually do a practice test at the same time, set yourself up with test conditions at 10 o'clock on Monday in preparation for your exam at 10 o'clock on Wednesday. It helps you get a real feel for how the exam conditions will feel. And it also has been shown in research to give you just the slightest edge in feeling prepared for that exam and doing your best work. When you do that, make sure you set a timer, so you have to stay focused for the whole length of the exam. Don't get up, don't take breaks, don't check your phone. In fact, don't have your phone anywhere near you. Only allow yourself access to the materials you're going to have in the actual exam. And that would be a perfect time to either do a practice test if school has given you one, or maybe use those practice tests you've made for yourself, or sit down. If you can do this well in advance of the exam, sit down with the revision sheet and consider that a test and get as much of that done in the strategy that I talked about before, first and last question in each topic, and then go back and see how much you can do in the time. But make the most of that experience to help you feel more familiar with the test conditions when you get to that test. Don't forget to seek assistance as well. Never write off a topic as being too difficult. Oh, it's too hard. I'm not even going to worry. I'm going to assume that I'm not going to get any marks on that section. I'm just going to focus on the things I can do. That's not a great approach for obvious reasons, but it also doesn't show a growth mindset. We can learn anything with enough support and time and reinforcement. So go and ask for help from your teacher so that you are on the path to learning that topic. You can ask a peer who understands it really well, whether they can come maybe to the library or to your house and help you understand it a little bit more. And don't forget that if you're not understanding the way your teacher might be explaining something, there are lots of explanatory videos available on YouTube or on specific tutors' websites. For example, WooTube, an Australian maths teacher, or Khan Academy, which is an excellent site to explain lots of maths topics and give you a chance to revise some of them with exercises as well. Those resources are there for you if you're willing to look for them, okay? So if you're not understanding it the way that it's been explained at school, don't throw your hands up in the air and say, this is hopeless. Find somebody else who can explain it a different way. And if you can't find a face-to-face person within your circle that you can get that assistance from, then see if you can find that help online. Once you've done all that preparation, you should feel confident going into the exam. Nobody can ask more of you than the best preparation possible, the best revision possible, and paying attention in class and doing all your homework. If you've done all of those things, then what you put out in the exam is going to be your very best work. There's nothing more that anybody can ask. And you can walk out of that exam feeling confident that you have done that. You just get to relax, demonstrate all the work that you've done. And if that's enough to get you a C and that was your goal, then fantastic. If you are aiming for an A and you get it, wonderful. If you worked really hard, you were aiming for an A and you didn't get it, you know it's not because you didn't work hard enough. It's just because the concepts were a little bit too tricky at this point and you need a little bit more time to learn those concepts. But you've done your very best and you should feel proud of yourself for your achievements because you know you've put in the effort. So good luck, everybody. I hope that in your upcoming maths exams, you feel really confident, really prepared, and really proud of yourself for all your effort. If there's anything I can help you with, feel free to email me at jane@lavenderlearning.com.au or leave a comment on one of the videos. Please hit the thumbs up button on this video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell if you'd like to be notified of further videos as well. Thank you. Bye.